All right, what's going on, you guys? We got a new guest artist video, and today we have Joel MEJIA Tattoos. He is currently tattooing in MEJIA, California, but he will be moving out to LA real soon, so look out for that. Joel tattooed on season 15 of Ink Master. If you guys want, you can go check that out, but I'm gonna stop talking so he can get in here and he can talk more. All right, you guys.
What's up, everybody? My name is Joel, aka Joel MEJIA Tattoos on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you haven't seen it yet, I was also on season 15 of Ink Master. So today, what I'm gonna be doing for you is a Sacred Heart tattoo that I did for one of my good clients, Nicole. She has been tattooed by me for a few years, so this was definitely a treat. I wanted to make sure that we did something that was cute and just a little banger for her. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's go ahead and start this off with me cutting up a stencil. I wanted to do a little banger for her, something that wasn't gonna take a long time, something that could be done within about 3 hours, give or take. So I wanted to size out the tattoo so that it fit around all of her other work on her leg. She did have a lot of open space, so I didn't want to do anything that was going to interfere with potential other projects in the future that we would end up doing. As for my setup, I use Helios needles, and for my tight 3 specifically, I use Quadrant. Other than that, I use Helios needles. My common size needle is, I'll use a tight 3, tight 5, tight 9, a 11 curved mag bug pin, 15 curved mag bug pin, and sometimes I'll use a 23 curved mag bug pin, and I think I use that in this tattoo. As for my black and gray, I use Dynamic and Triple Black by, I believe it's by Intense. They're super black. And then I have a system of doing 75% and then 50%, and then I do 12 drops and then 4 drops, and that's in like the larger caps. So to start off this tattoo, what I wanted to do was I started to gray line this piece because normally, you know, people would just go in and they'll black line everything, but whenever I do a heart or anything with a lot of circular motion, I kind of like to gray line things. Not to mention my stencil is a bit thick, so I didn't want to just like go super confident in these lines and it not be where I wanted everything to be. So I went and I gray lined everything because I was kind of just, I'm not gonna lie, I did a lot of this on the spot because I was like, I had it as flash for when I went to the New York Tattoo Convention, but nobody claimed it. And I showed Nicole and I was like, dude, let's do this on you. She said, hell yeah. So I kind of just freehanded a lot of this just from my mind. So like I said, after my gray line, I did go in there and I black lined all the things I needed to black line, like all of the lashes. And then I started to build up the tattoo as I, you know, continued on. After I did all of the lashes, I went into kind of starting to shade certain areas. The great thing about me doing all the gray lines was I didn't have a for sure black line that I had to go up against. So that way on the inner part of this heart, I could do a little bit more with the softer shading. In the eye specifically, I did kind of frame the iris of the eye with black, and I went inward so that it kind of almost looked like rays because I like eyes to look very bright, and I feel like the way to make things look bright is if you have a lot of black or a lot of contrast. So after I did all of that, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, I went in and I started to shade with my 15 curve mag. Usually when I shade in a few different directions so that way you get the smoother shading, because when in art you do cross hatching, so when you do cross hatch you happen to you have smoother blends, because when you have a mags are like this, and in order to get the softer shading you kind of go from different directions so that way you don't see the lines, because they are different striations from the lines, and you want to kind of get rid of that as much as you can. So that's why sometimes you'll use a bigger mag. In this case, you know, I went around and kind of like shaped the heart with my 15 curve mag, and then I went in with my 23 to make sure that I softened everything out. And then I started to build the values of the eye. I mainly did this because the eye is the focal point of this tattoo, and I've learned over time that you want to focus on your focal point before you start to kind of like work on the other parts of it, because sometimes if you work on the background side of things, it takes away from the main focus. And that's why I did, decide to gray line in the beginning. And after I built up all the values within the eye, I then started to go around the frame, which I was very glad that I did, because there are parts of it that, when you put something that's very symmetrical on the body, sometimes, especially with a thick stencil, things kind of like move or shift or whatever. So I did take out certain parts of this tattoo as I was going. Again, I did freehand a lot of this part, but I'm really glad I did it. It came out so clean and so precise, because, I'm very much into details and I'm a perfectionist at heart. So I just wanted everything to be super crispy, especially because it's a little banger. I consider this like a tattoo banger, you know what I mean? Like how traditional artists, like if you go and you get like something off the wall, like you just pick it and stick it type of thing. It's not something that, she could build on this eventually in the future, but it's kind of more or less just like a fun banger. So that's why I did the black lines around it. They were a little bit bolder, and then inside is very soft. So after I built up all my line work on the outer parts, I went in and I just started to softly build the filigree that framed the piece, because I wanted it to just be very nice, elegant, and feminine, because my client, she is a girl, and I want to evoke the emotion of just like the person that I'm tattooing, and she's very, more feminine, and it's just a cute piece. And who could go wrong with the Sacred Heart, or my version of a Sacred Heart, having a little eye, a little twinkle inside of it. So as I continue to tattoo her, towards the end parts of the tattoo, I kind of realized, certain parts are getting a little bit spicy. Obviously I gray lined a lot of parts of it, and then I started to build the outline, so it becomes a little bit more tender. But she sat through it like a champ. Do you hear them in the background? Yeah. Okay. So after I did a lot of the inner and outer parts of the filigree, I noticed that there was these empty spaces in between the filigree. So I wanted to make sure that there was a little bit more weight to the frame, because I felt like it was lacking a little bit. So I did black in a few areas of the outer parts of the frame, so that way it looked well balanced. Because if there was so much heavy concentration on the shading in the center, and then the end parts were a little bit too light, it would feel like it doesn't have enough weight, especially with such a bold outline. So I did decide to black in a few little areas in between the filigree. And then of course, to top it all off, after I was done with every other aspect of this tattoo, I went in with my white highlights. And I'm very selective with my white highlights, because I don't like to put a shit ton of white, because sometimes artists kind of do that for the picture. I'm not that type of person, because when something heals out, you want it to heal very well with the body. Sometimes when you put copious amounts of white ink, it could turn yellow or be a little bit discolored, and I don't really like that. That's why I use a lot of negative space. So I was very selective in where I put my white highlights. So in the iris of the eye, in some of the jewels, and in little parts of the frame, but not all of the frame, because again, negative space. Once the tattoo fully heals, it's gonna look perfect. So Nicole is such a champ for this. I am so happy with the way that this heart came out. It genuinely looks so beautiful. It fit her leg really nicely, and I think that it's super fun. If you wanna get something like this, quite honestly, hit me up, because I like doing little bangers like this. I think that it's cute. You know what I mean? Who's gonna go wrong with a Sacred Heart? No one. So thank you again so much for watching. I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed listening to my process about this tattoo. If you want to see anything from me in the future, everything at Joel Mejia Tattoo on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. So with that all being said, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next.